Everybody can go. Everybody can go. Everybody can go.
Hey guys, hey, and welcome to episode 3 of the Everybody Can't Go podcast. I'm
We
Whiskey, and I'm here with Mr. 501c3. I've been practicing that all week. What up, Lou? What it do?
What's going on, everybody? What's happening, man? What's good with you? How are you?
It's good to be here. I'm okay. I was gonna ask you how you was, but
Yeah, I beat you to it today.
I am, well, I'm okay as far as in the grand scheme of like I am at peace, but managing mental wellness and mental health is real. I'm in the midst of a depressive episode, and I'm always self-conscious about what that looks like cuz as a performer and artist and stuff, I always have to wear it. I always have to go out in it anyway. And I forget that it's just something I always have to manage. And I fight God about it all the time because I'm just like, would it be cool if you just took the depression away? Isn't that a better witness? But apparently, this is just what it is. And it's one of those days. And you hit me up and was like, yeah, I'm having one of those days. And I was like, nigga, it can't be both of us.
Yeah,
You are doing the most right now.
the the crazy part about it, that's how I was going to word it when I hit you. I was going to, yo, I'm going through an episode. You know,
Yeah.
the last couple of days have been a struggle. You know,
Yeah.
um, I don't, of course, I don't know actually like what is stemming from, what triggered it. I'm
Yeah.
I'm still trying to find that so I can take a notation of that, and so let my therapist know what's going on at our
Yeah.
next session.
Do
'Cause
you journal?
um I do, but it's not consistent.
Yeah.
It's not consistent.
Yeah.
Like I journal for the first time since my homeboy's death last week.
Oh, yeah.
That was for the first time, and that journal was just all about him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was just,
Lou,
yeah.
that's probably where this stems from. Like once you start and it's interesting because I've been thinking about this about what we miss
Right.
in our social media posts and when we talk about healing and processing emotions, we forget that how you process is literally sitting in it. You sit in the grief, you sit in the sadness. That's part of how you heal from it, and it's uncomfortable, and it's kind of the thing that we all want to skip, especially as part of the grieving process. But I think it's helpful to remember that, oh yeah, part of the grieving process is just like you want to sit in it and feel like shit, and it's going to come to you in waves. And I definitely know that's what I'm dealing with. And I keep calling it depression. I'm like, well, you are depressed because someone died.
Yeah.
Someone's no longer here anymore. And the language I use to be hard on myself is like, oh, you're depressed, the spirit of heaviness, all that stuff. But it's like, oh, it's you are coping with a major trauma. And part of it is that you're gonna have to feel it and you can't control when it comes. It comes. So you're doing the healthy thing.
Yeah. I, um,
Yeah.
I was able to, get that all out, and the next day I was like, I was gonna like, all right, I got that out, and I'm like, well, I'll journal tomorrow. my journal tomorrow will be about, the, officially putting the DJ stuff away and selling my equipment and how I'm, what I'm saying? So I'm
Cut the live, cut the live. You gonna
like, and I couldn't even bring myself to do that because, said like I grieved that too.
yeah,
I literally grieved that as like as I was driving home, man. I was like, yo, it hit me like it hit me as if that chapter was like completely over, but I don't want to say completely over. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Because there might be a time where God has called me to, what I'm saying, to do something like a church
Like
might
our finale live show.
so, something, what I'm saying. So I
Yeah,
was like, man, it was grief stricken though, you know what I'm saying,
my
and
God.
that was tough. That was tough because it
Uh,
because that was something that I always dreamed of doing, and
yeah,
and I lived it out, and for it to be
yeah,
over, you know what I'm saying, for it to be over, and that was kind of so.
yeah. That's the scary part. Walking with God, you don't get the timeline, and you do get a lot of the desires of your heart, but sometimes they don't last as long as you want them to. Like, listen, every nigga I ever prayed for,
Yeah.
I got. It was just a very short-lived relationship type thing. So yeah, that's real too. And I can't talk about enough what it is to grieve phases and stages and old versions of yourself. That's part of what I'm going through too. Is just like I don't know what my art looks like now that I'm here in this space with God. And yeah, it's a lot to let go, but having the understanding that once you let go of something, God always gives you more,
Right.
greater, higher. But you gotta wait for that to happen. And you just be standing there with your hands.
Right.
But in the midst of it all, I'm gonna do the annoying spiritual bypassing thing. What are you grateful for in the midst of your pain right now?
um I'm grateful for the experiences.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the full circle moments of like as far as like with the DJing. Like, I'm grateful that a lot of the spots where I was the consumer, I was the party goer. I attended those different venues
Hmm.
and seeing, what I'm saying, seeing certain DJs, what I'm saying, that I idolize and things of that nature, rocking with them at those venues. I had full circle moments where I came back and I played those venues.
Yeah, I get
You know
it.
what I'm saying? Yeah, so I'm grateful for like
Yeah.
those full circle moments because, and in the times where I was the party going, I was like, yo, that's what drove that fire. You know what I'm saying? That's what fueled
Yeah.
it. Like, I want to do this. I want to rock a crowd like this. You know what I'm saying? Have everybody, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, partying and be the reason or part of the reason why everybody's having a good time. I had those moments.
I hate when you DJ because I can't stop dancing, and I'm like, I need to sit down. I'm too old for this, and then I be hurt the next day. Like I'm literally like, please pack your.
Yeah, and not what I'm saying, not to my own horn and things of that nature, but I used to love those moments when
Yeah.
people were like, yo, I'm trying to leave, stop, you know what I'm saying, and like I used to love those moments, man, like, yo, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to leave, please
Yeah.
stop. So those are the moments I'm grateful for, man. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying, those things. um but I know, they serve their purpose, and
Yeah.
they they aren't like, if you told me that the next event I did, I would have 10 of those moments, it still wouldn't be satisfactory. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? That's how I know That's how I know. You know what I'm saying? Like I would,
Yeah,
I like not saying like I wouldn't be appreciative of it, but I
but it's
just
not about you anymore.
exactly.
And I overstand. I think that is the thing. I was doing a promo for this episode today, and I said, look, like this podcast, whether you believe in God or not, it's good for artists to stay grounded into something that's higher than them. Because when it starts to become about you, those depressive episodes hit harder because you think you're doing everything out of your own power and it's tied to like nothing. And I started to feel that fatigue toward the end of
Mm,
last year about like
yeah,
being seen, like it's my job to be seen and to heal out loud. That's part of the calling, but I've been taking this all into my ego and that feels empty. Like what'll make it feel full again? The only one who can fulfill me is God. The only thing I can really point to is God. Making that transition of things being all about you, the photo shoots and I'm doing this and all this, it's all cute and fun until it's not anymore. And it's like, I don't have this and I don't want to be boxed into being seen and perceived a certain way where it's all about me. I want to point to something higher because
yeah,
I ain't got it.
for sure.
But I didn't realize that transition, there would be mourning that comes with that transition because I'm like, I like me. I like that it's all about me. But it's ego work, stepping out of it. It's intense. Yeah,
It's,
this is an intense time.
it's part of as I was going through as I spoke with my therapist and things in different sessions. Man, it's I never I never thought I had like main character syndrome. Yet me, right?
Really, as much
Me.
as you say I'm him, I'm
Yes.
him. Like, and then you go, I didn't know I had.
But here we
Yeah,
are. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
yeah, that
yeah,
is definitely a thing. But I look back on it now and then like, damn, you
yeah.
yeah, it
It's
is
some humbling to do.
yeah, very extreme humbling to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Extreme. And but the thing I'm so grateful and glad to do the humbling.
yeah.
Know what I'm saying? Because
Talk about it.
it removes me from being that person. And I told you, like, I see that person, or I think back, and you know what I'm saying, the visuals or the thoughts of that person are just they are so
Yeah,
cringe at times. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And I'm just like,
yeah,
yeah, please, God, please, yes, remove it,
yeah,
remove it, yeah, remove it
yeah.
all.
Well, it's not removing. It feels like a restructuring for
Yeah,
me. At least it feels like a um yeah, this is how you redirect it
yeah,
and you
yeah.
still have the
Every
same
direction.
influence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same. Yes,
So
yes.
yeah, it's interesting. We might have to do an episode about this because I talk about this learning rethinking or redirecting my relationship with external validation has been a thing in all that ego work. And it's just it I had to learn that there are seasons when God allows you to be seen and seasons when he hides you and you
Mm,
can't force it. Like I can't force like a show I'm doing or some visuals I have to pop off. I have to be in the right space for God to allow me to be seen. It has nothing to do with algorithms. That's why I don't worry about like this podcast and the views and stuff. When God allows it, he allows it.
right.
And it's kind of like I had to settle into when it's time to be seen, you'll just know. So just be consistent with chasing after God behind the scenes. And when it's time to be seen, you'll be seen. And it's weird. I'll be like looking like a bum on the street. And people be like, wow, you like you have a word or something. So yeah, it's all sorry. I just that's my favorite like conversation I think about artists who walk with God, just how you have to lean on everything is leaning on God and everything is pointing to God and how it looks to people in this day and age because God is not popping right now. He's not trending.
ah, man. Mm.
Yeah. So that I guess that transitions us into the topic. 'Cause we were talking offline about like we both have daughters. I have two daughters. You have three. So this will be an interesting conversation because you are raising your daughters along with your wife, and I'm a single mother, and I'm raising two daughters who have different fathers, and I'm the head of household, running stuff. I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need no man. Sorry. so just kind of talking about like in this interesting time where we're in the gilded age and things are crumbling down, capitalism is crashing out before our eyes. People are returning to more traditional belief systems and kind of using the Bible for some of their talking points. And a lot of that is used to be weaponized against women and be like, well, God says this about how women are supposed to be, how women are supposed to dress and act, and what is acceptable in womanhood. And I know that affects me very deeply. And then thinking about raising the future of women in this environment as a Christian woman, it's not looking good. There's nothing I could say to make Christianity look sexy for the girls. I'm like, but celibacy though? Nobody?
Right. Right.
It's a tough sell. I mean, how have your daughters been, well, what is their walk with God like, and how have they been witnessing you get closer with God? How has that been for them?
Um, it's been amazing. It's been amazing for them to see the transition in me.
Yeah.
Um, I'm in the habit, so excuse me, but I'm in the habit of trying to when speaking on things that I know God did. I'm in the habit of trying to get in the habit of not saying that things are ironic or they're funny.
Yeah.
God isn't ironic.
Yeah.
Funny, you know what I'm saying? So um it's no coincidence that you mentioned that, and what I went through a thing last weekend. That's yeah, last weekend, right before I journaled. Right
Hmm.
before I journaled. So um you asked how my daughter see my transition, and before I journal, I went into this book that my wife had made. She had made herself one, made me one. It's called like a war Bible, right?
Oh, okay. I love that.
Right. So she's a fan of the movie War Room.
Hmm.
That's what you saw. So
I haven't.
um long story short, it's about a lady. I think she met another lady that helped her uh focus her spirituality, and she was going through like real tough times, and the lady had taught her how to like make a prayer closet and make this war Bible. I stand strong in my war Bible. It helps me fight
Yeah.
through all these different things. So my wife ended up making one for herself, and she made me one. This was when I was going through my darkest,
Yeah.
my darkest times, and never read it. Like I might have skimmed through it or saw that she made it. And I knew I had it, but I just never read it. And I totally forgot about it. Right. So as my wife has been going through stuff, she mentioned that she was gonna, get back into it and what I'm saying, get back into hers because, since she's fighting a couple of things herself.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, well, I said she's like, I made you one. So I was like, yeah, I kind of do remember you making me one. And I was like, I don't remember ever reading it or going through it, but yeah, I'll get back into it as well. Sunday before I journal, I opened it, right? And this is where my daughters come in. The first 3 pages were letters that they wrote me during those times. Never read them a day in my life. You talk about broken. You want to talk about broken on
They
your
was like,
I'm reading those, and like you ever been so hurt that you can't cry?
yeah. Well,
And
no, I'm a cry, but
yeah, I
I
mean, but
understand.
like you want to, but you can't.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's just so shocking or something. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Intense.
Yeah, it was that intense. Like reading that, and I think I said last show or the show before last where that's where a lot of a lot of like pain and stuff that I deal with now is trying to forgive myself.
Oh,
You know what
yes.
I'm saying? Trying to forgive myself for those things.
Yeah.
So I'm about to journal while with this open, and I see those three letters. All three of them wrote one,
Yeah.
and I'm reading them, and it just flashed me back to everything I'm taking them through and what they're begging for as
Yeah.
children to their father.
Yeah.
They're just begging for me to be there, for me to stop drinking and just do stuff with them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm crushed as if I'm reading it still in that life.
Yeah.
But the heaviness gets a little lifted knowing the transition has been made.
Yeah.
And they're so happy, and I don't even know if they remember writing them. I'm too scared to ask because I don't even want to rehash that with them. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I want them to continue to live and be where their feet are, and I'm,
Yeah.
I'm trying to do the same. But I said all that to say like the transition. Like I know they love and adore the person that I am now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, it's it's still tough. You know what I'm saying? It's still tough. It's just tough being a parent. Period. And I know
Yeah.
you can, of course, I know you can attest to that because, as you said, I'm raising mine with my wife. You're doing it alone,
Yeah.
you know. So I can only imagine, saying the hardships and the things that you go through, saying as a
Yeah.
parent.
Uh, yeah. this,
Yeah.
this is. It's not that I have shame about it. I'm just
Right,
very honest about where I am, and I know that I have to work through it. But it is difficult for me, or I'll say in my Christian walk, my healing journey, having to get out of like the sex addiction and drinking too much and just being crazy and not handling my business. I had to do that for my daughters. That has been like a major inspiration. Making the transition has been clunky, I think, especially for my youngest one, because I imagine to them it looks chaotic. And
right.
then Christianity is such a grift now. So me talking about God and leaning into God and trying to pray with them and stuff, like my youngest was like, "This is fake." Like she was like this, and I just told her, I was like, any transition someone makes, major transition, is going to look fake
Yeah.
because they are changing into a different person,
So
and I
drugs are
know,
hypocritical. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
On
and
the
and
surface, it's
and
hypocritical. Yeah.
yeah, well, and all I can give them is honesty
Right.
because, growing up around Christianity and around religion, everything seems so performative. And I think that's what the turnoff is.
Right.
And my thing is like, I'm not going to have it together and everything. I'll be going out to a performance and my youngest will be like, that dress is a little skimpy. And I'll be like, well, I felt like it was, So it's been really clunky. And I know that they want more of my presence. And my thing is that I have to figure out how to let them know that I can't be present in the way that you want me to because I have to put my oxygen mask on, and then I have to take care of y'all and then fill in the holes financially, and then fill in the holes with what your dad would be doing, and make sure you have male influence around you, and make sure you're not scared of men or hate them. Like, I have a lot of extra jobs to do because their fathers aren't as present, and it weighs me down, heavily in what you said about forgiving yourself. That's the tough part, I think, in parenting, and forgiving yourself and going through, and them knowing that I can be off because of managing depression and stuff. And it's like, oh, you're so into God now, and everything's just praises and blessings and prayer and glory to God, but you're still managing your depression. I could imagine that looks whacked out. I'm like, I am not selling Christianity very well. So the only thing I can think of is that you fill in the holes with prayer.
Right.
Um, and just being like, let God fill in the holes in the voice that they have, because I literally cannot be two parents. I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah. Like I can't. I don't want to. Um. I don't want to use the term like selling Christianity on them.
Yeah.
I can't. I can't force it on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
I don't want to force, I don't want to force it on them. But what I want them, what I do want to do is set the example and show them that where I came, you saw where I was. And
Yeah.
if it had not been for, I would not
But
be.
God.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If it had
Yeah.
not been for, I would not be. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Right? Like I would not be where we are or where I am today.
Yeah.
So the version you see of me, you can thank me for changing and this, that, all that, but no, your prayers changed this. You know,
Yeah.
writing those
Yeah.
those letters were prayers that
You
God,
had a part in this.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Those letters were
Yeah.
prayers that God answered. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
think that's it's difficult for me. I didn't realize this is such an intense thing for me. I think that the optics of my lifestyle doesn't look good. Like I think I feel intensely about the influence thing, realizing especially because I'm a woman, I influence them all the more. Um and I'm a single mom and I'm celibate. I don't date, and I'm very introverted. I have to guard my energy, especially like doing this work. I have to be very intense about staying away from energy vampires and stuff because it just drains me and it takes me off purpose. So I live a very solitudinal lifestyle, and I know to them they're like my youngest is always like, "You're lonely. Like, why are you always by yourself?" And it's just interesting the contrast that that's why I this is such a tangent, but I'm allowed to be on my soapbox as Women's Month. We talk about issues in the Black community, especially, and we talk about it, the issue being single moms raising their children, and it's like the issue is not single moms raising the children, it's absentee fathers not being there. Like, you get to gift your daughters with your presence, with them watching you do like a complete 180, with watching you like do this beautiful healing thing, and them getting to talk to you in a way that penetrates you and has you like uh what is it, fulfill what they need. And
right,
it's kind of like if the father is not present, there's nothing there's nothing I could do to recreate that feeling for them, other than teach them how to walk with God and teach them that God is a father and God can fill that void. And not only that, God usually sends replacements. Like, as close as I was with my father, as much as I love my father, and as much as I'll get in trouble for saying this publicly, emotionally, I just think it's a baby boomer thing. Emotionally, he was not, giving all the zhuzh that I needed as a very emotional child. But the replacement was I had like a dope band teacher who was all very attentive. And like, so I had extra like father figures in there to plug in the holes where he couldn't like be, or he couldn't fulfill. And
right,
I just kind of want to show them that that is a thing, that there will be strong male presence in your life that provide that feeling. But also I have to teach them to not want it too much, because when you start to lean on that desire for male presence too much, you might start hoeing like your mama did. So it's
ah,
yeah, sorry. But anyway, all that to say on the topic is that I want to start doing Bible studies with them, especially talking about how what happened in the Garden of Eden, and that how we feel about men, how we idolize men, and how society socializes us to have that yearning for men is part of the curse that we're under, right? And that curse can be lifted when you walk with God. You come to a higher understanding of things, and you're not pulled by that desire to be seen or looked at and loved by men, because that's a society, that's a flesh thing, that's
Right.
not a
It's
heavenly
a
thing. So I think that that's the part where I'm moving to next, is to have Bible studies with them and to explain to them that there's the historical things that were happening in the Bible under that curse, but that is not how God thinks of women and what God wants for women, and trying to get them on board with that. And it's a tough sell, because now the talk in the feminist streets is like, if you're decentering men, if you're working on your self esteem, you can't worship a male God. And I'm like, wow, they really went there. You ain't know, Lou? Oh, I'm getting you hip to what's
yeah,
happening in these
please.
streets.
See
Yeah,
it. That's what they saying.
this is what they're saying, and it's interesting because I consider myself a feminist, a womanist. I'm hardcore in these streets, but I think women have forgotten that feminism is a spectrum, and the whole thing is that you support women living life how they wish to live it. And I'm on the more traditional side of femininity, and I see where my ideals don't align with where the feminist movement is going right now. And I have to separate my ideals out of some of the ideals that they're pushing, because I think when we get into godlessness, it gets dangerous. But the new kind of thing is that, if you're have you heard about the decentering men?
No, enlighten me.
No. This is like
Enlighten
old
me.
school conversation. So, okay. I'm actually practicing decentering men. This podcast is going against it. So, I decentering men is basically women are socialized to everything, the way we dress, what we think about is all about how men are perceiving you and falling into in line with what men want. And it's basically unprogramming yourself to think about what you want. How do you want to look? What do you want to eat? Are you comfortable with your body outside of this man thinking this about you?
Right. Okay.
And it even it talks about, like, on the deeper spectrum, it talks about not having too many men as friends. And I've had issue with platonic male friendships, because
Right.
one, if there's not the barrier there of, like, for my friends who have girlfriends who are married, I'm always like, y'all are just bros, whatever. But when I'm in platonic male friendships, if the male is masculine and starts responding to me in a masculine way, I can't handle it. Like, I can't have those kinds of friendships. And I
So you
realized,
know.
huh?
So you just
Yeah,
start
I
melting.
just yeah, it'll just be like we're kicking it, homies, and they'll be like, "Oh, you want me to take out your trash?" And I also realized in my male friendships that when they were having issues with women and want to talk about their dating relationships, in my efforts to be empathetic to them, I started, like, co-signing stuff that I wouldn't co-sign
Yeah.
if I were talking to the woman. And I had to be at a certain point where I started to be like, you lunch. What
Yeah.
you did to that girl was wrong. But I haven't always been that way. So I had to redirect my relationships with men and push back on my male friendships, and be like, what is authentic to me, so I can do what I want to do as a woman, instead of being so influenced by men.
Right.
So that is the overall concept, and I think it's a good thing. But then it's starting to get in the conversation of, how can you decenter men when you worship a male god? You need to deconstruct and decenter Christianity, and that's where I'm like, skirt.
So so that's so
It's
they
intense.
they yeah, I'm about to say, so they're going all the way, like all the way with it that far, that it's let's decenter God.
Yeah. And it's surreal for me because one of when I was getting back into my own femininity and starting to appreciate being a woman,
Right.
and unpacking my internalized misogyny, that was how I got back to God. Was my understanding that God is a spirit and we're all made in the image of God. So us thinking of God as male is not even correct. And this is what I believe and what's been spiritually revealed to me. And I know people have different thoughts and beliefs because of the pronouns used in the Bible. But if you think about it, God is what we can't even fathom. God is I am. So we can't fathom how God operates, but he set up a structure that gives us insight into how this works. The father, the wife, the what is it? Mother, father, husband, wife, and then there's children. And he set up the structure so that we can understand via metaphor what he means by these relationships. But when you think about it, we're made in the image of God. Woman is made in the image of God. God is a spirit. So how have we excluded ourselves out of this? Anyway, it's a deep dive and intense conversation, but I realize that where women are going is that we intellectualize a lot of things, and some things are spiritual. And I think this thought process of decentering God and worshiping a male God is us trying to intellectualize something that is spiritual. And I think that's the difficulty I will have explaining to my daughters that how this works
Yeah.
because it's an intense concept. I mean, because I was raised in a house that was pretty much male centered, and we had the patriarchal father, and he was Superman. So I had to unpack a lot of internalized misogyny. But now I'm raising girls who don't have fathers in the household and aren't around men, and I have to teach them how to not hate men when
Right.
I'm barely there myself,
Yeah.
barely.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what's happening in the feminist street. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is. Um, and the thing about it is like raising girls in this environment, in this world, in these times, should I say, in these times is so much more difficult
Yeah.
than I mean, who am I? Of course, who am I to say how difficult it is? I didn't raise a daughter in the 90s. I didn't raise a daughter in the 80s. I didn't raise one in the 60s or 70s. So who am I
You
to
know
say?
it's more difficult. Please stop.
So socially, it's more
Yeah.
difficult. I
Yeah.
was, you know what I'm saying? So socially, it's a whole lot more difficult.
Yeah.
Um, because I mean, not just girls, but children and teenagers these days are I don't want to use the word control, but they are so
Influenced.
yeah, yeah, by the internet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The internet and the social activity of the internet.
Yeah.
You know, everything funnels through the internet and these phones and they everybody is so accessible now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And that's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary. And that's what I mean like when I say it's so much more difficult. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's
Well,
so
and socially, as far as how they interact with each other,
right,
do
right.
not. I
Yeah.
I think the thing I worry about raising girls, and I've seen this a little bit with my oldest daughter, is that the boys are just not socialized to interact with girls. And a lot of them come in addicted to corn, we'll say for you too,
Yeah.
addicted to corn at like 7, 8 years old. And their perception of the opposite sex is whacked out. And so to raise girls to not be afraid but be vigilant
Right.
It's difficult, and to let them know that things that we've normalized is not okay. You're not supposed to witness people watch have well, you're not supposed to witness people having sex. Like you're
Yeah.
not supposed to. That's very dark spiritually, but back in my day, I'm like, all men watch corn. It's just a thing. Now I'm like, no corn watching niggas because there's something not right. It's a hassle. And then they be in your bathroom watching it. It's like I'm right here. I don't get it anyway. It's a whole thing I don't understand. But this stuff has been normalized, and you sound like a prude when you're trying to tell them that it's not normal for the little boy that's interested in you to be like, oh, I watch a lot of porn. Like, ew.
You
It's
it's
Women's Month. I'm a show out.
it's horrible. It is horrible. It is horrible that, like you just said, like we have 7 and 8 year olds that have access to this stuff.
Yeah,
And they are, not only do they have access to it, they are the targets.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? They are the targets of of these addictions,
yeah,
to be start being trafficked, and what I'm saying, things of that
yeah,
nature. Like it's horrible, and it's scary, man. It's
yeah.
horrible and it's scary, AF for real.
And I think the double standard is the difficult part because it's like little boys can watch porn and be addicted and objectify girls, but then and they can compartmentalize who are the sluts in the school and who are the goody two shoes girls who should know better, not do such and such. And it's kind of like the same teen that watches corn all day is slut shaming a woman for her body count. And it's like, if you plan to sleep with all the young women and then go off and find your virgin, how does that work? There ain't no virgins
It
left.
doesn't.
You
It doesn't.
it doesn't. But the
It
thought
doesn't.
process is wild because it's like you're weaponizing certain values that I think that are tied to you know they're tied to relationship with God. There's the law that's on paper when God tells you don't do this and don't do that and
Right.
how you should show up. That's for people who are walking with God. For people who are not there yet, there's a different grace for them. Like that's why I don't get uptight about like women who dress a certain way or have their body out or whatever because that's all part of it. When I went through my awakening process, I had a little pit stop in the I'm gonna dress this way because I'm free because you're trying to work out what freedom is and society
Right.
makes that hard for women. So I think we're just really hard on girls these days, and now we're using the Bible to weaponize things against them that's not necessarily even biblical. It's just people wanting to quote certain things. And I don't know, I don't have a plan worked out for how I'm going to navigate this, especially with one going off to college, because I want to be like, just shut it all down. Like my parents were like, sex, don't.
that, that's it.
The end. And I didn't know that it was awesome. So I was like, y'all been holding out. So like, like I even told my girls, I was like, well, it's gonna be awesome, but
What
that's
you
not the.
mean? Don't have you tried this?
I was like, this the thing y'all was telling me. This is why we can't have nice things.
We can't. We ain't gonna last.
but it's real.
Yeah,
It's
it's
real,
real.
and
It's real.
that's the
It's
thing is
real.
I feel like these conversations aren't had in a real way. It's not that stay away from him because he just wants to have sex with you, but it's like guard your virtue and guard your heart because what happens biologically to girls when you have sex is not the same as men. Men can get up and dip and be good, you are going to be tied to this man for a long time, and you're going to feel like you love him. Like this is very intense stuff, but how do you, it can't just be the biology of don't do this. It has to be like, also there's something to be said about being pure before God and not having people not having perverse hands touch you. Like I want that for my daughters, but it's not a sexy sell in this day and age.
Yeah, really. I mean, of course, we can go all day, but the Bible says lead the child in the way they should go. They will not falter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's as it's not cliche, it's in the Bible, but people tend to use, think it's cliche.
Yeah.
And they use that as the standard, but it's so much way deeper than that, because you can set all the examples that you want, and yeah, and
I
a child, saying that we don't think, saying the iron is hot till we touch it. You know what I mean?
listen, raise the child up in the way they should go, and God's word won't return to him void. That's true, but it's going to be a delay before it gets there.
Yeah.
And in that delay,
and
that
see,
delay though.
that's the part where that delay does that delay have to happen? I mean, you don't, not questioning God, what I'm saying, but does that delay have to happen? Do they have to stray off? Do they have to do worldly things to get an understanding? You know what I
Well,
mean?
so that's what I loved about last week's podcast, because you realize Keelanda and Solo were like the different. Like Keelanda's like, I've always been in the church. I just needed to deeper my relationship with God,
Right,
and she didn't have that like rumspringa where she was out in the world just wilding for a second, you know. So
right.
I feel like we do, the whole purpose of the Bible is so that we won't have that delay. But I'm like a, it's not hot though. I mean, it's still preheating, so it might be a little warm. So I'm gonna touch the stove and just, or you know what it is. Let me just get on my feminist soapbox. What it is that we have told women and socialized women to believe that they're the exception to the rule. And this is actually true. It's biblical. When I think of stories like Rachel and Leah and Jacob, that's an awful story if you're a woman. Nobody wants to be Leah, the ugly one that he got duped into marrying. And like, that's a terrible story. But her larger purpose was that she was the lineage of Jesus, and I
Right.
never knew that. I was just like, what a rude story that God is telling about this poor, ugly woman. But then she was very purposeful. And when you think of how God blesses, it's through like generation. It's not something that you're going to feel necessarily right away. But anyway, all that to say is that how men, the nature of men, is very scary to women, and even how it plays out in the Bible. There are certain things that we have to come to terms with that I'm still not comfortable with, but I accept. And one of those things is that to a certain extent, you will be the exception. To a certain extent, when you do couple up and meet a man that's right for you, he is inspired by you specifically. You would want a man who's been nice to women throughout his whole track record, but that's not how it works. Sometimes, like, niggas come to you cruddy and they only get right because they're inspired by being with you, or because,
Right.
and that is a dangerous game for women to always believe that you have to be the exception and not the rule. And when you think like that, you think any dude that's bad for you, you can make him good.
Mm,
And and so how you try to foolproof that or negate that, right, is that you sit in your femininity. You don't chase after men. You don't see a dude and be like, oh, he fine, I gotta make him mine. You do the whole like, a nigga will come to me if he's interested in me. That's how this works. When a man findeth a wife, he findeth a good thing. Then men started playing the long game and just being psychopaths and preying on women. And this is in the Bible too. There are all sorts of like what they creep into the houses of silly women. There's all sorts of like scripture about what's happening now about men using women for their resources and sleeping with them to take things. And I'm just like, I don't know how to raise daughters in this environment. uh how do you teach them to not be scared when men have socialized themselves to be predators? And we're socialized to believe like, yes, he's a predator, but not with you if you're the right one. It's
Right,
a mess.
right. Um,
Sorry, it's women's month. I'm going. I want to plant seeds for you to think about these things because it's difficult with daughters. And I think, as protective as my father was, one of our last conversations we had, he was so puzzled. He was like, I don't understand the men of today. Like, they don't want to work or like take care of things. And he's like an old school dude. He's like, that's what I do. I take care of women. I provide, I protect. And niggas are like, but when is she gonna protect me?
Logic said, not gigolos being biblical.
I will put the scripture in the description because in for any woman who's going through this, I recommend R.C. Blake's. He's a pastor who has a heart for women, who does a whole ministry. He talks about this. Like, gigolos are in the Bible, and men, the history of men taking advantage of women, it's all throughout the Bible. So it's kind of like, how do I teach my daughters? I'm gonna look it up for you, Lou. Take it
He said,
away,
we
because
need it
we.
for sure. Yeah. um, to Dad's point, God bless. To Dad's point, men men of today aren't like men of yesterday. Um, the world isn't like yesterday. You know what I'm saying? The women aren't like yesterday either. Nothing is traditional. As much as we want it to be, we would love for it to be. It can't be. I'm not saying that there aren't any traditional marriages or there aren't any traditional, but what they are the minority, clearly the minority. In the times that we live in today, you're not gonna. It's tough to want a young man, say he's a teenager, he's 16, 17, he's in a high school relationship or things of that nature, and you know they supposed old times, he's got to have a career or have a plan for a career, and he's going to see it take off, this that all that. Well, that's not of today. Today it's it's hardly ever about going to school anymore after
Oh
after
yeah,
high school. It's all about like the social media, how becoming an influencer.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So they things are not gonna be normal. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? And it's hard to program. I don't want to say it. I'm sorry, excuse me for that word. It's hard to teach. I don't want to
yeah.
say program. It's hard to yeah, because I saw you oh
Well,
we
listen,
scrolling.
I was, I was programmed, and I
Yeah,
know that's controversial to say, but I was the youngest, and that was kind of the way my dad knew to teach me was, and to deprogram myself. That's where I went astray. So it is difficult. That's the thing I learned, is that you can't program them either,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I
That's why I
don't
told
want
myself, I'm
to.
like, don't want to use that word. No, 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 no,
Yeah,
no.
I was like,
Use that word. Yeah, yeah. Don't want to use that word. We want to teach them as much as we want to teach them, and that go back to the circle of life, man. Like I've had this conversation with some with buddies and bros and everybody so much. Like, how many times as we were young, how many times did older, saying our older, elders and things of that nature tell us, yo, do this because you don't want to be 30 and then trying to figure this out. And then, saying you want to start now. And
Yeah.
then, we all we thinking about is we can't wait till we graduate high school because we're grown and we get to do whatever we want. And we're tired of being
Yeah.
under the rule. You know what I'm saying? But not under not understanding and being too young to realize and being mature enough to understand that they're trying to warn us not to make the same mistakes. I have nephews. I have two. I have two nephews, man. I have, more than that, of course, socially, because I'm an unk now. In the 40s, I'm unk now. Yeah, I'm out here unking. You hear me? You know what I'm saying? So, but my two nephews, I seen them traveling down that same road. I tried to, yeah, we unking, Lodger, we unking. So, so I tried my best. You know what I'm saying? I seen
Yeah.
them traveling down that same road. Like, yo, nephew,
Yeah.
you don't want to do this. I've been there. You don't want to. Same thing elders used to tell me, man. You don't want to do this. This ain't where it's at. And now, what I'm saying, both of them, they're progressing, but they have it way much harder than they could have if they
Oh
would have
yeah.
if they would just listen. But they thinking we're trying to program them. We just trying to give them the game.
Well,
And
yeah.
and
And you have opposition
yeah,
because I'm going in because it's for every uncle that's trying to put you on good game and get you on the right path. There's the uncle who's like, this is fluid.
well, go ahead, man.
for every for every and that was the thing I used to think too, like younger, like, oh, older men are a resource for wisdom, and then you're in the church and you start growing, and it's like the resources for wisdom are getting a little handsy on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
hugging. So it's kind of like, how do children? There's so much influence. There's social media. There's uncles. There's parents. There's how do you make sure it filters into them? All I have is prayer.
and
All
that's
I
all.
have is
That's all. Um,
it's too much.
and what's a hurtful thing to even imagine or realize. And I pray that we don't have to deal with it. It's almost as if when you have the rebellious children, right? I can I can imagine a parent having to deal with rebellious children, and then they have to like wash their hands with them. And not saying like cut
Yeah.
them off, but just like
No.
you know what I mean when I say wash their
You
hands.
got to
Like,
give them the inheritance and
yeah,
let them go and
like
hope they come back prodigals.
exactly, exactly, exactly. And I pray, I pray we don't have to deal with that. We try to raise them the right way and what I'm saying, do things the right way, so we don't have to deal with that. But there are children that they're just gonna do it, and that hurts because some of them don't make it back.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
and not even some,
Yeah.
a lot don't make it back.
I
You know,
I know I made it back off the strength of my prayers, of my parents' prayers, my dad specifically. I know that's how I came back to God because I felt snatched back. It's like he stands at the door and knock. I don't feel like he knocked on my door. I feel like he was like, get up.
yo, there was a post. I don't remember the year or whatever. It's not important, but I know it was after what I'm saying, after my um, sobriety and everything. I made a post. I said I know the only reason why I'm still here is not only because of the prayers of the people that are still here. I said I know God. I put a post up. I said I know God was ready to press that button so many times on me, and my grandmother probably was up.
Finish him.
And my grandmother probably both of my grandmothers were probably up there with Lord, not yet. Just give him time.
Yeah.
Give him a little time. Not yet. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I know it had to be. It had to be, man. It had to be as strong as both of them are in the word. I know that their prayers along with the prayers of other family members and stuff. I know
Yeah.
that's what kept me here.
Yeah.
There's no way. Um,
Yeah. That's what I have for them is prayer and trying to do this work of getting people in the habit of understanding that God wants us to think, but there's also a portion of it that is surrender and trusting in being able to receive understanding and revelation. And I think that's the part that's difficult because revelation can always be written off as woo woo, as like you didn't have an encounter, how do you believe this? The spiritual part can always be explained away, and people only want to look at the Bible. But one of the things that helped me is Pastor Darius Daniels. He explained the difference between prescriptive and descriptive. And he talked about a lot of the Bible is descriptive. It is describing what happened in the times. This is how women were subjugated. This is how they were treated. This is all under the curse. This is all the times that were happening in the Bible. It's a
right.
history book. But then there's prescriptive. There's the things that God wants you to do, the lessons you're supposed to learn from it. So I think when we get to the Bible, this is not something we can separate. Everything is just like, oh, look at how women are treated, and this is what God feels about women. It's like, no, that's how society felt about women then, and this is us all operating under free will and how things were set up. And God is allowing this to happen because we are under free will.
Yep.
And it seems like an intense concept to explain, but it's literally what happens when you reason and you think. So it's kind of like the balance between teaching them to be intellectual and to be thinkers, but also to be open enough to invite in God's revelation and to have a personal relationship with God so they understand how to move and make decisions. Because if it were left to me, I'd just be like, men, no. All right, good talk. So anyway, we're a little over time. This is probably a two-part conversation that we can get more deeply into. But thank you to everybody for joining us. If we seem a little lackluster, it's because it's been a day. But I always enjoy chatting with you, buddy,
Yeah,
especially about this stuff.
likewise. Wow,
Yeah.
this is pick the this is pick the mood up. You know what I
Did
mean?
I figured it would? You was all like, I was like, yeah, okay, like we.
Hey, moment of transparency. I typed out cancellation message no less than 4 or 5 times.
I saw the
Yeah,
dots moving, and I was like,
I'm talking
Whiskey
about.
don't cancel shows.
I'm talking about even before I even sent the initial one. I God is
I
my
saw
witness.
the dots, not on my watch.
And there's, you know what? You had to see him because soon as I typed out my mood for the first, look at Elijah with the dots. But seriously, soon as I typed out, with you know, my check-in, you responded right there. I was like, damn. Was she about to text me, or she just had her phone open, or what was going on?
I had
Because
my
it was a
phone open
response
because
like,
I was laying in bed all day except to go get my Uber Eats.
yeah,
And it was bad. I made a pot of coffee and I came out at 4 o'clock and was like, I made coffee. Like it's been a bad day, but I was like, that's what this podcast is for. And it's not
yeah,
always going to be a pretty smooth conversation where we're touching lives. This is for us and our
yeah,
healing and showing that, Christians have to lift each other up and it's not easy. And some days you're not going to have it. And that's why I brand everything as authentic because some days it's going to be a drag.
yeah.
Some days we might just sit on here and cry. But if that's what we given that day, that's what we given.
Yeah.
So yeah, I saw the dots and I was like, and I saw the messages and I saw you like there was space in between the next one, and I was like, I didn't even think about you canceling because you know
Oh,
how
I promise.
everyone's expendable.
I,
The show goes on.
I promise you. I typed it out so many times. Like, yo, I don't think I can get through it today. I don't erase. Nah, cause this ain't what God want. But I gotta
Right.
be true. I gotta tell the truth. And I,
Yeah.
nah, erase. But look, let me just tell her how I'm feeling. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I just said. I just
Yeah.
look, let me just explain like how I'm feeling and we'll
Yeah.
go from there.
Yeah.
And when you said same, I was like, and
Yeah.
you was like, but you know, we'll just roll with it with whatever the energy is given. I was like, you know what? I and that's what it's gonna
Yeah.
be.
It has to be a you thing. This is not Whiskey's podcast. This is our thing, and you have to want it. And I can't pressure you into it or anything. So I was just watching him come in, and I was like, I know a nigga not about to cancel. But if you had, that would have been fine too, right? But I'm glad
Yeah,
that you didn't because the enemy is after our consistency.
yeah,
And doing something like this seems like just us cackling on a podcast, but I feel like this is real,
yeah,
and this is necessary, and there's going to be some spiritual warfare attached to it, and sometimes depression is something that I have to manage, and I know where it comes from, and other times it hits at a time that's so inopportune that I wonder if it's like a strategy to get me distracted from doing what the work that needs to be done. So I'm proud of us for doing this,
indeed.
and shout out to, our first two episodes combined over 150 views. And for
Oh,
me, I love that.
indeed. Clap, we're gonna clap with us for
I,
that. Yeah.
listen, I was 125 of them, but that's cool. Anyway, I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of the work that we're doing and that we both showed up today. And I hope that's
Yeah.
a witness to someone that you can keep going even when you don't feel like it, like the Holy Spirit fills in. But yeah, I am so thankful for this podcast. I'm thankful for you, Lou. Shout out to Jay, who was our guest
Yeah.
producer for today, and then Logic on the back end. We had the dream team. I feel like they just be trying to hang out because they love us or whatever.
Shout out to Jay and Logic, man. Appreciate you both.
Yes. Shout
Swear.
out to iRant family, iRant Network. You can also watch the podcast there. You can download iRant Network on your Roku device and support some Black folks in Black TV. So y'all talking about revolution, boycotting Target. I need y'all to support Black people directly, watch Black stuff, do Black things, and that's
Yeah.
how we lead a revolution. Anyway, any final words?
Um, nah, I really don't. I'm just press forward, my friend. Press
Yeah,
forward. We press forward together. Um,
we did. Virtual
I
high five.
yeah, virtual. Um, I'm thankful. I'm not out of the woods yet, but I'm
Yeah,
thankful for this hour that we just had. You know what I mean?
yeah,
This hour that we just had has been better than all of the hours I've went through since getting up at 6:30 this morning.
yeah.
You know
Because
what I mean?
God's in it.
Yeah,
Trust me, God was not in my day today. I was doing the opposite of God, just falling in all sorts of terrible coping mechanisms. But that's okay. You know, the healing is here. I'll just say, finally, God heals the brokenhearted, and He bindeth up our wounds. That's Psalm 147:3, and that's an affirmation, a psalm I say to myself when I'm feeling brokenhearted and have the spirit of heaviness. So hopefully, that will help whoever is listening. And if you ain't into the Bible, it's just a good mantra. Healing is on the way. Thank you all for enjoying episode 3 of Everybody Can't Go podcast. And to all, a good night.
night.
Peace.
Everybody can go.